This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today on the podcast I want to share, I suppose, a bit of an insight from a conversation that I had today on a coaching call with a client. And I suppose the beautiful thing about this is that it really does. This is more consistent than I think most of us may think. And so my conversation with him was about how he feels like he lacks consistency and lacks discipline, right? Now, this is a conversation that I know I've had before. I know countless amount of people have had before about feeling like they lack discipline and lack consistency and so forth. Now, one of the things that pops up, and I relate to this massively, and anyone that's done the Enneagram and leans into a type 7 behavior will feel the same. It's just like this, we'll get started on one thing and we won't finish it, then go on the next thing and won't finish it, but we'll try and do all these things, but we kind of get nothing done, right? And then there's somebody else that would just do one thing and they'll see it all the way through, even if it's detrimental to other areas of their life. It's like they have to fucking finish it. They start something, they finish it. That seems to be some sort of trait that we really like about someone, but sometimes we start things that aren't worth finishing, right? This is where we may lack flexibility. Sometimes we really do start things that just aren't fucking worth finishing. You just finish it by ending it where it is. Now, these are interesting because both of these feed into some what's called meta programs, thinking patterns, one of them being either options or procedures, right? Just this is what I'm going to start. I'm going to follow this procedure and see it through to the end, which is closure, which is another meta program of thinking pattern, right? And so I'm doing this because that's who I am. It's like, well, that's just how you filter reality. The other one, procedures and closure, the opposite of that would be running options and non-closure, right? And so options means I have all these options of things to do in front of me, and then I have non-closure, which means I don't need to finish them. And that might bother me a little bit, but not enough to finish it. And so what happens is that we think sometimes that the ability to have non-closure is actually lack of discipline, right? And the ability to have options is actually lack of consistency, whereas it's a skill. Options is a skill and non-closure is a skill. The problem is that when that skill is so strong, it becomes a weakness because we lack the ability to follow a procedure, and we lack the ability to simply follow and make something close, to close something off. Now, the opposite. If somebody is procedures and somebody is, let's say, closure, what they may lack is the ability to see other options. They might find that they also lack the ability, right? Well, not really lack, but let's call it lack for now, but lack the ability at the moment to feed into this idea of seeing different ways to do things. These people are really good at being managed because they're so good at just, here's your project, off you go, and they'll go and do it, but they won't think of how to do it differently. They won't be able to bring something creative to it whatsoever, whereas the person who looks at options and non-closure may be more creative. That might be more of a creative type of individual. Now, both of these individuals have the ability to lean into the other side. The person who has options and who runs non-closure, if they were to lean into procedures and lean into this filter of closing things off and seeing things through, they would exponentially lean into their potential and really start pursuing that. The other person, if they start to be able to field into being a bit more creative and not so rigid in their ways of having to finish something, because sometimes we finish shit that no longer served us. But the interesting thing, above all that, I find fascinating. I think it's really beneficial and fascinating to know. But the beautiful thing, as I was explaining to him, and he was talking, right? And he's going there and he's like, I suppose it's like, for me, I'll go to bed and then that's when I really start thinking, and then I have all these ideas and I want to write it down. So I get my iPad and he goes, I guess that's probably a procedure. And I'm like, mate, yes. I'm like, we can't do one without the other, right? We aren't able to do one without doing the other. This is the same conversation about we can't have front without presupposing we have a back. This is the powerful thing about, and he just had this fucking light bulb moment where he realizes that we're nothing and something at the same time. So if we take a moment to step back and think about this for a second, right? We don't fucking lack anything. It's what we pay attention to and what we get good at. what we practice, right? And I like forget the 21 days to build a habit bullshit, because it's not like, what point do you just have to keep doing that habit for the rest of your life? Does it mean that before that you didn't have a habit? Like, it just 21 days, bam, now it's your habit. That's how it works. Science says it's just like, this isn't a consistency across the board for every single human being. What we need to do is not focus on 21 days. We need to focus on now what's important to us. What's important to me today? What's the one thing, especially if you lean into options, what's the one thing? It'll be the fucking hardest question you ask. What's the one thing that's important for me to get done today? And you do that one thing, right? And that's it. You just do that fucking one thing. And people go, just one thing? It's like, well, you've done nothing, mate. You've done nothing for fucking months. So doing one thing is massive, but this is the thing. If you do nothing for a year, that's zero, right? You try and do all the things and you get nothing done for a year, that's 0 things. If you do one thing a day, it's not 365 things in a year, because the things that you do in the back end of the year, you're only able to do because of the things you did at the start of the year. That's exponential growth. You weren't able to do the things on the back end of the year because you weren't in a position before at the start of the year, but because you did the one thing a day at the start of the year, you were able to do the things on the back end of the year. So one thing a day is massive exponential growth if you just follow the procedure and get it done. And so the beautiful thing about this is that we don't lack discipline. We don't lack consistency, because saying that means that we've got like the opposite of lack. We have this skill in another area, right? Because this person, I know this person, and many of you guys listening, lean into some sort of entrepreneurship, some sort of creativity. It's like, you fucking need options, mate. You need to have the ability to look at options. You need to be predominantly a mismatcher on some degree. You need to be able to look at something and go, what's missing? These are all skills. We don't fucking lack anything. None of us. We are nothing but potential. And the beautiful thing about this is that we have the opportunity every day to wake the fuck up to ourselves. Wake up to what we do well and what we can work on. And our potential lays in what we can work on, because it broadens our skill set. And that allows us to go really wide and really fucking deep. Not just to expose these massive weaknesses, because somebody who runs options so well, who runs non-closure so well, then lacks the ability to see things through. The person who sees things through all the time, they lack the ability to be able to see that they wasted their time on something and therefore wasted years of their life. But they were so proud, right? This fucking fake feeling, so proud of being that person that saw something through. It's like, well done, mate, you saw your decades away. And that's not to say that's for everyone, right? It's the ability to step back and have flexibility. That's where the power lays for all of us. Because we don't lack, because if we lack in one area, if that's how we see it, it means we have a massive skill in another. But what we're paying attention to is what we lack. We're counting what we lack and we're discounting what we're good at, right? Rather than looking at the area of improvement that we have right in front of us, the opportunity to make sure that we can really develop our own skill set to really give the world what we fucking deserve to give it. That's the opportunity. We don't lack anything, guys. In the reality, we step back and see it, we don't lack anything. We have it all. We have all the potential we need. It's where is our attention go? Are we living attentionally or intentionally? And if you want to go back to listen to that episode, I highly recommend it, because that was a great episode. Attention versus intention. So the biggest thing here, guys, is being able to step back and have a look at it and really ask ourselves about what is it that we want to do? What's important to us? Because we don't fucking lack. We have nothing but potential. And knowing that, it's heavily about the questions we get to ask ourselves. And on that note, team, I am done. If you haven't already, jump on Facebook, search Move Up Online. I'd love to see you guys in there and joining the conversation. Otherwise, until next time, peace and pizza, kick today in the dick, and slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.